Hello and welcome to Communication Connection. I'm Terry Likes. Thank you so much for joining us. The end of the spring semester is a time for celebration, especially for those seniors planning to graduate. It's also a time to dedicate to our faculty who do such a great job preparing them for this momentous time. Joining us here on Communication Connection is Associate Professor Dr. Larry Strout, a longtime member of the department. Larry, you're joining us because we want to reflect on your distinguished career as you enter retirement. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here. It went by very quickly.
I understand. It is a time for reflection as you look back on a long career.
It definitely is. When you finally decide, okay, this is when I'm going to retire and make that commitment, you start thinking about all the people you've met, and some you've been able to inspire, at least you hope you have, and you've gotten some feedback from some of the students over the years. And of course, working with all the great faculty I've worked with over the years. So it's a happy time in the sense that I'm going to go off and get to do some things that I haven't been able to do, but it's sad in the sense that I've always enjoyed being on the faculty.
Well, you've left your mark for many students and your colleagues, as you note. But before you came to Mississippi State, you did work at many other institutions, a few of which including Southern Miss, Xavier, the W here more close. I'm glad that you were able to save the best for last by being here at Mississippi State for many years. Tell us about some things for which you're most proud.
Yeah, at the W, for instance, I got the radio station back on the air. They had some technical trouble, couldn't find anybody to fix the transmitter, frankly. And I found someone in Jackson and got that wheel going. So that was pretty proud of getting that back up. Xavier in New Orleans, that's a no-brainer, bringing the department back after Katrina, because the campus, every single first floor was flooded with Katrina, including my office, including our TV station, including our lab for the newspaper. So that was quite a task after having a semester off as they rebuilt just the basics. Then taking 2 years after that to get it back up and running. So I'm pretty proud of that. And then, of course, here at Mississippi State, I think I didn't do that much towards it, but the graduate program, and I'm proud of the fact that I did create some of the courses for the graduate program and also taught the law course for the first time. And I had not taught in a graduate program, probably 2 decades. So that was very enjoyable and rewarding because the students really responded to that course, and it felt really good that, you know, they appreciated my experience combined with just staying up to date with what was going on with the law.
You also, during a time of another colleague's retirement a few years ago, served as the advisor for the Reflector. So another significant contribution, maybe even slightly out of your wheelhouse, but you were able to serve.
Yes, and I had done some advising for student media at other institutions. But yeah, we wanted to make sure we had a thorough search to get the right person, because we'd had someone as the advisor that had done a tremendous job for many, many, many years. And so it was nice actually to do something a little different that year and get reintegrated into the student media and working really as an advisor. As you know, it's an independent student newspaper, so you don't dictate anything, you just try to help them along where they needed the help. And we had a great editor-in-chief that year too. So that was very enjoyable.
Another great way to work with students. Well, you have a master's degree from The Ohio State University, PhD from Florida State, but more recently you decided to go back to school and add to your credentials. Tell us why you embarked on that journey.
Yeah, as I've started to teach law, which a number of years ago now, the more I got into it, the more I liked it. And at times I even thought to myself, geez, you know, I should have gone to law school instead of the PhD. I remember discussing it with my wife, and she says, well, if you want to take time off and do that, I go, well, I don't think we could afford to do that, but maybe we can take the time to get a master's. So I went back at the University of Illinois, Springfield, and got my master's degree in legal studies. And it's been a big benefit to me and therefore the students, because I got some formal training there. In the process, I had a course in the politics of the Supreme Court, which is really, you know, that's pretty up to date. So I got a lot of really good courses there, and some things I learned that I've passed on to students. Really glad I did that. Really glad I did. I think I was 60 when I went back, and it took 3.5 years.
Well, certainly, I always tell people it's a little more difficult later in life to go back to school, and you did it, and I certainly commend you for that, and able to bring all of that to the classroom, which is a meaningful contribution. You've certainly seen, being a member of the Department of Communication for all these years, nearly 2 decades, you've certainly seen the department grow and evolve over the time.
Yes, and I'm proud to have been part of the recruitment process for a lot of faculty members, serving on a number of search committees. I think we've gotten better in every way because as you bring in good faculty members, then they're part of bringing in even better faculty members. So it's been a really good process there. I think the students, you know, people complain about education today. I think our students are getting better every year. I think you can see that when you start assigning essays and things, and you can see, okay, they do, you know, they are writing maybe better than they were 10 years ago. We don't like to say that. I guess we like to say, oh, the good old days, but I think these are the good old days.
Well, speaking of the good old days, before you got into higher education, you worked professionally, notably radio, news, and sports, for example. We even have some photos to look back over time, but tell us about your professional career and what you were able to bring from that into the world of teaching.
First off, I wanted to say to students, internships, because my internship led to, in fact, a job, a part-time job before I got out of college. So I had a very good internship and on-air experience before I graduated from college, from that internship. We talk about how important they are. And then over the years, I worked in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, upstate New York, Washington State, and Oklahoma State. And about half the time, half of the 14 years in commercial broadcasting, and half the time in public broadcasting. So I saw both sides there, which is also good when you teach students. It's a different world, public broadcasting, than commercial. It just is. And so not better or worse, just different. And I got to cover some really big things early on in my career. For people in the Northeast, they'll remember this, the blizzard of '78. That's how old I am. That was my first full-time job, actually. Covered that. And then on the sports side, I'm very proud, and it was fun to cover Barry Sanders' Heisman Trophy season at Oklahoma State from the very start. He was not a name that anybody talked about before the season, and Barry was magic. I've never seen anything like that. I saw all of his home games, and there's still never been anyone quite as good as Barry Sanders.
Yeah, one of the most dynamic, if not the most dynamic runner. Could shift and move, and that's a whole other sports show we could get into. But,
and humble too, which
yes.
I really appreciated as a reporter. He always gave that credit to other people. Just a good guy.
Along the way, you've been recognized by the department with a Faculty Award of Excellence in Teaching, but there is sometimes a gap between that professional world when you move into teaching and years can go by. So you did take part in a couple of faculty fellowships over the years, which I think helps bridge that gap. I'm sure it did for you.
Yes, and those were competitive fellowships in which it cost Mississippi nothing because they were paid for. First one was Scripps Howard Foundation Fellowship in Social Media, where I went to WCPO TV, WCPO.com in Cincinnati, for 2 weeks in the summer. And that was just strictly to learn about social media because they were kind of on cutting edge of social media. So I was there 2 whole weeks in the summer, followed people around, saw how they judged people in terms of use of social media, made it competitive within there and so forth. So that was fun. And then I got the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Fellowship out in Hollywood. That was also all expenses paid by the foundation. That's the Emmys group, their foundation. And I went out there for a week, and we met with producers, directors. We got a personal tour of one of the Warner Brothers a lot by a former president of the academy, and met with lawyers too, Hollywood lawyers and so forth. So yeah, I brought all of that info, both the social media and then a couple of years later, the Hollywood, and brought it into the classroom. And there were a lot of really good things, keeping up to date, which is so important with how we do things. So yeah, it helped our students, ultimately helped us, didn't cost the state anything, and so everybody won.
Well, that's great. I know that teaching and research, vital aspects of one's academic career, but service is important too. And you've been very involved in the community through the Lego and robotics world, something completely different from the world of media in a way.
Yeah, I got dragged in that, but by my wife. She's head of the first Lego League competition for the state of Mississippi. It's a volunteer position, but it's quite a lot of work. And so I serve as a judge, not on robots. I don't really know much about robots, but they have presentations. And they, as a group, these teams, robotics teams, and so I sit on as a judge and judge how well do they communicate what they're doing, and boy, those kids are tremendous, and those kids are a lot of junior high and even before that, and when you see how bright those kids are, it gives you hope for Mississippi and the country.
Well, a time of reflection, we talked about it, also a time to look ahead. So as we near this momentous time of retirement, what's next for you personally and professionally?
Well, of course, I'll keep my hand in maybe teaching some online occasionally courses, but I'm headed for the mountains for a lot of it. We bought a cabin in the Smokies in 2009. There it is. Great in the winter. And we love hiking. We go up there to hike. And of course, we've been renting it out to pay expenses and so forth and get ready for retirement. But with retirement, we'll be spending a lot of time up there, a lot of hiking. So that's going to be one thing in retirement. Of course, my grandchildren, they're up in Boston. I'm originally from very close to Boston, so we'll be doing that. And then, of course, we want to do traveling some places. We did a lot of traveling years ago, but since we've had grandchildren, the only travel is to go see the grandchildren. So we want to go to Alaska and New Zealand and Italy and a lot of different places. So we've got a nice agenda. The first year, I think I'm going to just take a deep breath. And we'll go to the cabin and we'll do some hiking, but maybe plan a couple of big trips for a year or so after retirement starts.
Well, Larry Strout, thank you for being our guest here on Communication. Thank you so much for all of your service to the university over the years.
It's been a pleasure.
We appreciate you, and we appreciate you watching here on Communication Connection. I'm Terry Likes. We'll see you next time.